Hey guys, Johnny Deep here. I hope you're doing well. Today I want to talk about sidechaining the bass in house music, and hopefully by the end of this video it will be easier for you. A bit about me: I'm on, I guess, about 30 record labels. I've got 4 of my own labels. I make a lot of house music. What I'll begin by saying, for those who may not know, that whenever you listen to house music tracks, when you hear the kick and the bass that's following, the bass will always, well, pretty much always be dipping slightly for the kick to pull through. What this does, it's called sidechaining. It allows the kick and the bass to gel together, but because the kick and bass are hitting or operating in similar frequencies, it allows for the avoidance of muddiness and also for volume distortion, because, as I said, they're both sort of hitting the same frequency area. Okay, let's get to it. Now here's a track I made earlier, and it's a bit of a techno banger, Johnny Deep style. Okay, the first thing I want to say is that what I found is that when you choose your kick and your bass, it's a little bit like DJing. If you choose compatible kicks and bass, whether it be from your synth or from samples, a lot of the job is already done for you. One of the early mistakes I would make is I'd like this bass and this kick, and they were really sonically very, very different. So it was always going to be a challenge. So there's so many samples and so many bass sounds and so many kick sounds these days. I don't bother with that extra stress. The first thing I like to do, now this bass and the kick are both samples. And if you notice in my kick channel here, I run a bass mono. Now generally a sample kick is in mono, but just to be safe, I run that. And what that ensures is that when the track is mastered for either digital or even vinyl, then they're not going to have issue with stereo bass issues and all of that. And I do the same. You can see this is my bass channel. I've added one there. Back to the compatibility, I haven't had to EQ this kick. I like it raw. I like it as is. The other thing I can say is that with you kind of, a good indication that you're on the right track with compatible kick and bass is that you can turn up the bass comparative to your kick quite loud and it'll still kind of work. Just to give you an example. Now, these are the balance level for me, but watch, if I turn up the bass without turning up the kick, it's still sounding quite okay. Now, what I would like to say is you may notice the top channel, that is my kick, but directly underneath that is basically another kick. Now, the top kick is what you can hear audibly. But this kick underneath is what I call a phantom kick. In other words, it plays, but it's always kept in mute. What I do with the use of the sidechain compressor is I make that bass duck, not to the audible one, but to the phantom kick. So it will be heard as though it's ducking to the audible kick, but it's actually ducking to the phantom. The reason I do that is if you look over here, you'll see the kick, bass, kick, bass, kick, bass. But here the kick stops and the bass continues. But because I've trained my bass to dip to the phantom kick, when the audible kick, the channel 1 stops, my bass will remain tamed. If I do not have a phantom kick, then what will happen is the bass is no longer sidechaining and it'll pop up in volume, and you don't want that. So there we have it. Now I'm going to play the kick and bass. Sounding pretty good together without any compression, but I put sidechain compression on everything I do. Now I go to Ableton plugins. This is Ableton 10, by the way. Yours might be slightly different. Now we want to, first we're sidechaining. Remember, I want this bass to dip to the phantom, which is channel 2. So I've put in channel 2 there, and I just click auto. Now people are going to give you loads of different settings, this, that and the other. I use auto, works for me. And look, if you listen to my tracks, they're sounding pretty clean and pretty balanced. Now I already know that the bass and kick are very compatible, so I'm not going to be needing to dip or add lots. Basically, when I bring this down, the more that the bass kicks to the bass dips to the kick. As you can hear, the kick's just dominating. But I already know these two sounds are very compatible. That's it, that's done. I can hear myself, even though the volume's low, that's about it. It's just a little dip that's going on. Now to something that's been very, very cool and given me a lot of peace of mind. I don't get paid by this company, but I really like their plugins. And what these plugins do, they're by mastering the mix, and they basically listen to your music and balance and tell you where to adjust your EQ in order to get that balanced sound. This comes in very handy with kicks and bass or the low frequency. I'm of the view, no matter how good your studio is or your studio monitors, I'm of the view that in the lower end frequencies, it can be very tricky to balance beautifully those low frequencies. So as I said, whatever gear you've got, this is a really helpful plugin. Now what I'm going to do is play this track, and I'm going to show you how I use this security of having a plugin check and balance my low end. So mastering the mix, this one is mix room. So this is, I've already done this. This is my mid and high frequencies that have been balanced. Now I'm going to go and I'm going to grab the bass room. Now the first thing you need to do here is you select the type of genre you want. You know, it's going to balance to the type of genre. And even though this is techno, I love the deep house preset. It's warm and the top end is sweet. So it's what I go with, even for this kind of genre. And as I click that, you'll notice all of those vertical lines moving. And what that AI is doing in the plugin is saying, Johnny, if you want a deep house sound in your low end in a balanced way, I need to hit those vertical lines. So that's what I'm going to do. These boxes are all bands in the low frequency. So I've adjusted that. I've got to reduce that one. Reduce that. Reduce that. Then the last thing is to set my level. These need to be even, and you need to watch for about 10-15 seconds because it does move a little bit. Right, so now I'm going to play the whole track and turn up the volume. Okay, there we have it. I really hope that this video helps. As I said at the beginning, it was all very confusing to me, but this is just what I've learned over time, and this is the way I do it. Is it the best or the perfect way? Look, it works for me, and I'm very happy with the results. The video that's coming on next is actually the music video to this, so you'll be able to hear it all done, mastered with a music video. Hope it helps. Keep it rocking.